It's 3 in the morning. You're not fully awake, but you're not asleep either. You're in that in-between place where your mind starts to wander, and before you know it, you're replaying that conversation from 15 years ago. The one where you said something you can't take back. The marriage you stayed in too long, or left too soon. The way you treated someone who's no longer here to apologize to. Should have, could have, would have. Here's the thing, though. The reason you're lying there ruminating isn't really about those past choices. It's because you're unhappy now, right now, in this moment. When you were in your 20s, coming home at 3 a.m. on the weekend, you didn't lie awake thinking about regrets. You fell asleep. When you were happy, even if you woke up at 3 a.m., you'd roll over and go back to sleep. Babies do it. Kids do it. But now, you've had your major sleep cycle. You're just awake enough. And because you're unhappy in your present life, your mind goes hunting for reasons why, and it finds them in the past. All those choices you made, all those choices you didn't make. A 25-year-old doesn't lie awake like this. They're still living forward, but somewhere in your mid-30s, maybe your 40s, it starts. You've been in a relationship long enough to wonder if it was the right one. You've had kids or didn't have kids, and you think about that choice. You've stayed in a job or left a job, and you question it. If you're happy, though, you don't ruminate. Even with all those experiences, all those choices behind you, if you're content with where you are, you sleep through the night. But by 50, by 60, by 70, if you're unhappy now, you've accumulated decades of choices you can't undo. Relationships that ended badly, words that landed wrong, years you gave to the wrong things, and the weight of it all becomes heavier. Maybe that's why older people wake up so early. We say it's because you need less sleep as you age, but maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe you just have more to regret. People will tell you to let it go. Just move on. Don't dwell on the past. As if it's that simple, as if you haven't tried, as if saying, let it go, makes 30 years of should-haves disappear. But it doesn't work that way, does it? The Stoics understood this. Musonius Rufus, he was Epictetus's teacher. He said we torture ourselves most, not by what happens to us, but by clinging to what we cannot change. And what's more unchangeable than the past? Epictetus wrote, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." The regret isn't really about what happened. It's about the story we keep telling ourselves about what happened, the meaning we've assigned to it, the verdict we keep delivering against ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, writing alone in his tent during military campaigns, reminded himself, the universe is change, life is opinion. He knew we create our own prisons by insisting things should have been different. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu wrote, "If you realize that all things change, there is nothing you will try to hold on to. But knowing this and doing it are different things." There's an old story, I don't know if it's Taoist or Buddhist or just something that got passed down, about an elderly potter who spent his whole life making vessels. One day, near the end of his life, his apprentice asked him, "Master, which pot you made was the most perfect?" The potter thought for a long time. Finally, he said, "I spent 40 years trying to make a pot with no flaws. I would finish one, find a tiny imperfection, and smash it. Then I'd start again. One day I realized the pot I was trying to make didn't exist. It never would. All that existed were the pots I actually made, each one flawed, each one holding water just fine. I'd spent 40 years smashing real pots because they weren't the imaginary perfect one." The apprentice asked, "So which one was most perfect?" "The one I stopped smashing." That's what regret is. We keep smashing the life we actually lived because it's not the imaginary perfect one. The marriage we should have left sooner or stayed in longer. The words we should have said or swallowed. The person we should have been. But that person, the one who made all the right choices, they don't exist. They never did. All that exists is the person you actually were, and the life you can actually live from here. So, what do you do at 3 in the morning when the regrets come? Here's something practical. When your mind starts looping, when you're lying there replaying what you should have done, imagine yourself walking into cold water, a cold ocean, a cold pool. Feel it on your ankles, your knees, your waist. And as you imagine it, make yourself actually a little bit cold. Expose your shoulders, pull the covers down, especially in winter when you're normally tucked in completely. There's actual science here. When you fall asleep, your body temperature naturally drops. That drop triggers the release of melatonin and other sleep hormones. By making yourself cold, actually cold, not just imagining it, you're recreating that physiological shift your body needs to slip back into sleep. Keep your mind focused on that sensation, that slow walk into the cold water, while your shoulders feel the actual cold air. You might even start to shiver slightly. Then, right when you can't stand it anymore, when the cold feels too much, pull those covers back up. Tuck yourself in. Let the warmth come back. It works on 2 levels. Your mind can't be in the cold water and in the regret loop at the same time. And the actual physical cooling triggers the same hormonal cascade that helps you fall asleep naturally. But that's just the emergency measure, the middle of the night technique to get you back to sleep. The real work is something else entirely, because here's what's actually happening when you're lying there at 3 a.m. You're telling yourself that if you had made different choices back then, your life would be better now. If you'd divorced sooner, if you'd taken that job, if you'd said the right thing, if you'd been kinder, your life would be different, better, happier. But that's not true. That's just a story your unhappy present is telling you. You don't know what would have happened if you'd made different choices. You don't know if your life would be better. You only know that you're unhappy now, and your mind is searching for reasons why. And the past is an easy target. It can't defend itself. It can't say, actually, if you'd done that, things might have been worse. The truth is, you could have made every right choice and still be lying awake at 3 a.m., unhappy, wishing you'd done things differently. Because the problem isn't the past, the problem is now. So the practice, the real practice, starts with what you have right now, not the imaginary better life you think you'd have if you'd made different choices. What you actually have right now. Maybe it's not much. Maybe your life is genuinely difficult, but there's something. There's always something. The morning light, the fact that you're breathing, that person who still calls you, that cup of coffee you'll have in a few hours, the dog that needs walking. This isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's not about toxic positivity or denying that you've made mistakes or that your life is hard. It's about seeing what's actually here, not what could have been, what is. Because when you're grateful, actually grateful, not performatively grateful for what you have now, the regrets lose their grip, not because the past changes, but because the present does. And that's when you can start the practice. The practice is this: you notice the thought. That's it. That's the first step. You notice when you're picking up that old story again, when you're walking the dog and suddenly you're back in that argument from 2003, when you're making coffee and you're thinking about the divorce you should have filed for in 1997. You just notice it. Oh, there's that thought again. And here's the crucial part. You notice it without judgment. You don't beat yourself up for having the thought. You don't think, God, why am I still thinking about this? What's wrong with me? I should be over this by now. That's just more regret. Regret about having regrets. You just notice. There's that thought. It came again, like weather, like a cloud passing through, and then, and this is the practice, you put it down, not aggressively, not by forcing it away, not by replacing it with positive affirmations or trying to think your way out of it. You just put it down, like setting down a heavy bag you've been carrying, and you come back to now, to what's actually here, to your breath, to the feeling of your feet on the ground, to the dog pulling on the leash, to the steam rising from your coffee. You'll pick it up again. 5 minutes later, 5 seconds later. That's fine. That's what minds do. You notice it again, without judgment, and you put it down again, over and over, as many times as it takes. This is the practice, not meditation, not formal sitting, just this, noticing, putting down, coming back to now. Do this regularly, not because it will fix you, not because you'll reach some final state where you never pick up regrets again, but because this is what we can actually do. This is what's in our control. The past isn't, the future isn't, what other people think isn't. But this moment, noticing this thought, putting it down, coming back to now, that's yours, not yet still, but practicing. And that's enough. If this helped, come back tomorrow. We'll be here, still practicing together.